I received 5 internship offers last semester, and I want to help you land one too. Now, I don't say that to brag, but I've had enough experience to know the long and tedious process of applying for an internship. So I wanted to record a video for anyone looking for one, to give them specific steps and a plan that I wish I would have had when I first started, to help them avoid the same mistakes I made. Starting from the beginning, as soon as I started looking at online postings for internship opportunities, I realized my skills fit barely any of the postings. And honestly, it got to the point where I started to question what my college education was teaching me. I figured I needed to upgrade my skills, my experience, and my resume to actually have a real shot at landing an internship that I wanted. So I did some research, and what I found is the best way to showcase your skills to employers when you have zero experience is building a project portfolio. I realized that by creating a showcase of my side work, I could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. First, I could actually learn the skills that I was lacking, and 2, I could prove to employers that I knew what I was doing. So I went onto YouTube and Udemy and started looking at project tutorials on things like managing databases, making Tableau dashboards, and exploring online data sets from places like Kaggle and the UCI machine learning repository. My philosophy when following these projects was that I could follow the tutorial, but that I needed to tweak it in some way and personalize it so that I could actually call it my project. I didn't think it'd be very impressive if I put verbatim what I just followed from a tutorial on YouTube. Now, if you're worried about actually finding good tutorials for making projects, you shouldn't be. It's really not that open-ended. I literally typed in project ideas for Analyst Internship, and there was like dozens of results. So just sub in whatever internship you're looking for, and I'm sure you can find amazing project tutorials out there. After working on about 5 to 7 projects, I felt a lot more confident in my skills and that I could actually land some positions. So the next step in the process was revamping my resume. After doing some research, I found out that 75% of resumes are filtered out by automatic software without a human ever even checking them. But the key to beating this automatic software is to load your resume with keywords, because oftentimes that's what it searches for. So that's exactly what I did, and I probably went a little overboard too. I stuffed my resume with buzzwords, and I actually tailored it to whatever position I was applying to. For example, for a bank analyst position, I included words like analysis, security, and forecasting. And for a more data science-centered position, I included words like web scraping, data cleaning, and modeling. I dumped all my projects in a GitHub repository so that I could showcase them, and I actually built a basic website in WordPress as well where I could showcase them. So I included the links to my GitHub and website at the top of my resume, but I also had a specific project section where I broke down each project and some of the keywords that were used in the project. I knew that this resume was going to be a representation of myself and that most companies make snap judgments when it comes to looking at them. So I really wanted mine to be neat and really just declare to employers, hey, I'm good for the position, please hire me. Moving on, after building my projects and revamping my resume, I started applying to internship opportunities in earnest. And most of them were actually very easy, it was just sending in my resume. But of course it's never that easy. Some of them required cover letters and letters of recommendations. I did use a copy and paste template for most of them, but for positions I really cared about, I tried to customize my cover letter to the company and position as much as possible, because I think most companies can see when you're putting in the effort and when you're just kind of using a template and copy and pasting them. Through my research, I also found that you have a higher chance of getting an interview if you apply through a company website, which made sense to me because whenever I would go to the LinkedIn Quick Apply, I would see that like 1,000 applicants would apply to one position. So wherever possible, if I saw a position on Indeed or LinkedIn, I would see if it was also posted on the company's website and apply there. This way I could try to cut through some of the red tape of thousands of people applying for really good positions. Now I'm gonna be honest that this is the absolute worst part of the process. It's an absolute grind and it's really tedious just filling out demographic boxes over and over again. So along the way I rewarded myself where I could. I would give myself snacks or social media as I was working, and I would keep a progress bar of amount of positions I applied to so that each time I got through one, it felt like a small little victory. After a couple weeks of applying, I applied to around 50 positions, and then came the dreadful wait. After a couple painful weeks, I did start to get some offers rolling in though for interviews. And these interviews ended up being surprisingly diverse. Some were online, some were on-site, some only took 45 minutes, and some were like full 3-hour affairs. So it was really interesting to see which positions warranted more in-depth interviews. Before each interview, I would go into a website like glassdoor.com and look up the common interview questions for that company, just so I could generally prepare myself and so I wouldn't be caught off guard. For the first interviews, I mainly focused on knowing my resume and sounding like I was interested in the position, because from my experience, first interviews are mostly a weeding out process. They want to see if you were just lying about everything you put on your resume. So as long as you can show that you care and that you weren't lying, it's pretty easy to get past the first one. My second interviews were obviously more challenging. Some of them were in-depth behavioral questions and some of them included coding challenges. Now this will obviously differ based on what kind of internship you're going for, but some general tips that I use to prepare for my second interviews are these. So first, I had pre-planned responses to the common interview questions like, tell me about a time you worked on a project in a team. Number two, I was prepared to talk about anything on my resume. I knew that anything I put on that piece of paper would be fair game for the interviewer to drill me about, so I made sure I was well versed on every single project I put on there. I also brushed up on my coding skills. I went to leetcode.com to kind of just practice some of the common interview coding questions. And of course, I just did things to set myself up for success. Like I got a good night's sleep the night before. I drank lots of coffee before the interview because I'm personally a caffeine addict. And I also just tried to center myself before each one. I tried to clear the schedule for the day so that I could be relaxed and calm. You know, just basic things that are common sense to set yourself up for success whenever you're dealing with a stressful situation. After the interviews, I was plunged back into the painful waiting game where now I had to see if I got any offers. Sometimes they took days to roll in, other times they took weeks. But during this time, I was still applying to more positions because until I accepted a position, I wanted to increase my odds of getting the best one. Thankfully, I eventually started to get some offers, mostly by phone call, but some by email. And it was such a relief to know that all my work was starting to pay off. But this led me right into another difficult decision-making process, which was deciding which offer to accept. And the one tip that saved my life during this was to ask for extensions whenever you receive an offer. So whenever the HR person gets back to you and gives you the offer, by asking for a 1-month extension, it does two things. First, it allows other offers to come in so that you can compare them and actually choose the best one. And second, it simply just gives you more time to decide what the best option is for you. Now, whenever it came to choosing the right offer, common advice I see online is to choose the position where you're going to learn the most and enjoy what you do the most, instead of maybe the highest paying position or the one with the most prestige. And I definitely took those things into consideration, which is why I accepted a position with Travelers Insurance, because they hire a ton of other interns. So I knew that I wouldn't just be surrounded by 40-year-olds, but I could make friends and grow as well. After accepting the position I wanted, I formally declined all my other offers because you never know when you're going to end up working at that company again, and you don't want to rub people the wrong way. So if you did get offers from other companies, I would strongly suggest sending a polite decline. And even after accepting my position, the rejections from the other applications would continue to roll in. But the thing is, they become funny now that you actually have your position lined up, and they don't hurt as bad. And finally, after months of grinding, I could finally celebrate. I had my internship offer lined up and I was ready to go. Hopefully by following some of the same steps I did, you can also land the internship position that you want. Now along the way, a lot of my friends would ask me questions about specific things I was doing, so I want to answer some of those commonly asked questions here. The first question is, how long can you ask for an extension on your offers? So I asked for an extension of 3 weeks on all my offers so that I could let the others roll in. I think it really depends on how early you applied to the position, but I think you can probably get away with 6 weeks. Another question I got is, where do you find these internship opportunities? I found that the best platform is Handshake, if your school has it. If not, LinkedIn and Indeed are classics, company websites, as I mentioned. But there's also a website for tech jobs called levels.fyi that I found very useful for some very high-paying positions. So that's definitely another one worth checking out. I also get the question of whether you should value quantity or quality. So I think you should only apply to positions that 1, you genuinely want, 2, you think you could realistically get, but you should apply to as many of those positions that you find. I also get the question of how early you should be applying for. So I started applying for internships an entire year before, so the summer before my junior year. And really this is ideal because the earlier the better. You're going to face less competition and you're going to have a better chance at getting the position you want. Finally, the last question I got is how I learned the skills to build those projects. I actually bought a subscription for the personal plan to Udemy, but trust me, I also found some great tutorials online for free on YouTube. So it really is up to you and your budget how much money you want to spend, but trust me, there's so many great tutorials out there on YouTube. I'm sure you can build an entire portfolio just from that. So some final takeaways from the internship searching and application process. First, it's very long and tedious and difficult, so reward yourself along the way. Every time you get an offer or send in another application, pat yourself on the back a little because the journey is really what matters. 2, even if things don't always work out the way you really want them to, be proud that you're taking initiative. No one ever achieves anything in life without first putting themselves out there, so just the fact that you're working on this is a success in itself. Also, it can seem like a very big task to land an internship, so I found that by breaking it up into small tasks, like I did in this video, and then spreading it out over the course of a couple weeks, really helped me manage the workload while I also still had a life. And finally, please ask for help if you have it. You don't have to go through this alone. I got an internship offer from my roommate's dad. There's so many resources out there online to help you find them, but you can also take advantage of the people you know, your own personal network. So don't think you have to go through this alone. Take advantage of the people and resources that you do have. And finally, if you're looking for an internship as you're watching this video, best of luck. I hope that you found something in this video useful to help you in your own process, and I know you can do it. Well, I hope you enjoyed, hope you found it useful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you around.